Italian.
I'm Italian.
Okay, this is House Education on Tuesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. We are gathered as a committee to continue our discussions on updates to Act 73 to move us forward toward the goals of Act 73. So last week we had some language put on the table by Representative Taylor in an attempt to sort of see if there was, if that did anything for anybody. I'm not sure that it did, but I thought we would just at least start off if folks had any follow-up questions for Chris or for Legislative Council on the language. Isn't any at the moment. Oh, yeah, sorry, Representative Brady.
I'm gonna go there Friday, but I think we're out of town. I should have the language in front of me. Actually, let's go. Help. I was trying to understand the difference between that concept and the contracting concept that you put out with your amount. And what is similar or different? Maybe why some of those decisions.
You mind if I take a shot to answer that?
Please do.
All right. And then you can correct me. So I think that Representative Taylor's language maintained choice as it exists today, with maybe some guardrails on it. But the language was to essentially, I would say, do two things. One, maintain choice, and two, not have SUs, but have SDs. We frequently have the conversation about, can the two coexist in a world legally? Some of the language in there was to say, well, it's part of the policy of the district, whatever the district has to create a choice policy. And that sort of within that, they could potentially exist. I think that's why we look at the language that opens Title 16.
Correct.
Which says have different ways of accomplishing the goals that are in the Constitution to provide an education. I would say mine is different in that it sort of says not choice, but designation, but respects the idea that we need to continue to have independent schools as part of the mix as at the high school level, and to say that a school district may contract with an independent school or any public school to pay tuition to them in order to educate their kids. So I would say that's the main difference. Is one is about choice, although I would say that within a district, a school board, we don't have any rules against school boards having a choice policy within their district, whether it's Chris's policy or my policy. Chris's requires a choice policy, mine does not, but there's nothing that says a school district couldn't say within our district, kids have choice to go to whatever school they want at any grade they want, or they could say we had high school choice. Or they could not. I think that one of the issues that is the same is that if you are paying tuition to a school, that is a fixed cost, whether it's through contracting or designation or whether it's through choice. Mm-hmm. And just like today, if you are partly operating and partly non-operating, those non-operating tuition grades are a fixed cost, so that if you need to cut your budget, you can't cut those fixed costs. You have to cut the costs of the stuff you have control over. I would say in a world where we have a foundation formula, it attempts to address that by providing an adequate amount per student based on each student for each grade at each school. It doesn't allow you to sort of take from this group of money. Let's say a district gets a single budget and it's got fixed costs it has to pay. and then it's got the rest. And it, under today's world, you can kind of rob from this, but you hopefully in a future world with a foundation formula, you wouldn't necessarily need to, because by virtue of the foundation formula, each student would be weighted and be funded adequately. Similar to what they do in Burlington, where they say each student has a weight. That's how we determine how much money goes to each school. The school then determines how it wants to spend it to serve those kids. Chris, you were first.
And, I think one of the big differences between the contracting and the language, and Beth, please correct me if I'm not articulating this the right way, with the language that Peter put on for designation or contracting, relying on the decision of the school board to say which schools you can go to, whereas in mine, you're not relying.
Correct. Yeah, it maintains choice, parental choice, I guess we
Parental
should call it out. Yeah. As I've sort of game theoried out my proposal, and I think about the Champlain Islands, for example, or places along the New York border where students are tuitioned to multiple schools, whether they're public or private. Could a school board just say, our policy is you just tell us where you want to go and we'll let you go there? I think the answer to that is they probably could for those grades that they don't operate. So, in a way, it's like choice, but it is choice technically. Yeah.
But could,
I'm sorry, who was next?
I guess I'm sorry, trying to understand sort of the foundation formula piece, and I know some of these issues exist in our current system, but I don't think it isn't the premise of the foundation formula is not a voucher. It is not a bucket of cash that is attached to that kid that moves with them wherever they go. It is estimating the cost that it will take to educate each kid. And the district is going to get the lump sum money, the budget, for all of the kids in their district. And so when they go to then budget in their district, if things are more expensive because there's a higher needs population in some grades coming through, or they've got class sizes that are small and it's starting to strain against what is now being given to them in the foundation formula, the kids who are being sent to a school based on tuition, that is a fixed amount, so that they still have to manage within what's left in all the other places. So it might mean, and it could only mean, I guess, again, the most dire circumstance, if you're talking about reconfiguring buildings, it could mean closures of schools. There's only some schools in that scenario in which they could close, or cutting funding or changing opportunities or programming within public schools, but not the tuition. Because again, it isn't literally the money glued to the kid's back. It's the amount per kid it's going to cost going into a budget to the whole district. So I think that our concept of that is important, and keeping that in.
Yeah. I would say that the foundation formula attempts to adjust that or account for that, just as Burlington does, by providing the adequate amount of money to educate each and every one of those kids based on what it costs to educate them.
But in the case of Burlington, they can make operational changes at every school and every level in that system.
Yes. Oh, no.
There's some part of it where it's, okay,
Yeah,
that money is just there and
Yes.
you can't impact it.
Right.
So they can only do it in this
That's
other
right.
part of the field.
The-
They can do it
the-
everywhere. Right? Very important.
I guess with the
That-
foundation formula, it is, yes, they are fixed amounts. You still, if you're paying tuition, and as conceived in Act 73, that tuition would not exceed the amount of money that is that student's weighted foundation formula amount. Yes, it is still a fixed dollar amount under any scenario that we're talking about. Today, Chris, Peter, that is a fixed cost that does not allow you to sort of take from one to the other. But again, the hope for is that with the foundation formula, that you don't necessarily need to do that because the weight of each student is reflected in that way. But no, everything you said is true. But again, I think the foundation formula is different because the amounts are greater for greater need students and less for lesser need students. But it's still the same. This is still the same issue under any scenario we can come up with.
I just don't, the part that you spoke about with causing schools to close, I don't fully agree with that what I put on the table and the use of the foundation formula is gonna cause schools to close any differently than going to a bigger school district or any of these other options.
I don't know if I think it's gonna cause, I think it changes the decisions a district can and can't make, depending on the configurations in that district.
I guess I would say,
Agree with that, sure.
but how is that any different under any scenario that currently exists or could possibly exist? Yeah. Beth, then,
I'm just-
and then Jenna.
Could you, just to clarify, maybe, and maybe we don't have clarification yet because we're still thinking it through. When you were talking about in your language proposal, the designation and contracting, and you said, could a school like Grand Isle say, you tell us where you want to go and we'll make it happen? But the contract has to be a two-way.
Thank you, very.
So does your language differ from what's currently in statute regarding it does a little, but because you can designate now and school
Yeah.
districts choose not to.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It is a two-way, a contract is a two-party system.
So it's not just tell us where you want to go and we'll make it happen.
Right.
It might not be a
Yeah.
way
That's right.
if the receiving school.
That's right. A receiving school would say, we do not have capacity.
Thank you. That's what I
Absolutely.
thought.
So, I just want to make sure that I understand that, under the scenario of this, of Representative Taylor's proposal, in an SD with full choice, which is essentially what I'm looking at. In my experience, in a region that has many different operating structures within a short, close geographic location to each other. Folks who can take advantage of a choice to go farther or to choose a different school will do it, and the others who can't will go to the closest school possible. And if there are enough students making that kind of a switch, that has the potential absolutely to close schools, because if you lose students out of a school, which is, I'm not trying to talk about something new. This is something that's happening right now. If you lose students out of a school because parents choose whether they're paying on their own or whether it's a full voucher or whatever, a school that sees a decline in enrollment for whatever reason, they have to make up for that. And when they make up for that, they typically will start cutting programming. And the students who still can't choose are still going to go there to that school, even with less programs. And the ones who can choose and want more programming will take advantage of that. And I'm just going to continue to say, I'm trying to make us create a system that is a high quality educational opportunity for every student, accessible to every student. And this still doesn't get.
I'm sorry, can I just ask what's gonna happen in your district under the proposal of going to 27 districts? What's gonna happen to your system down there?
I have no idea what your question was.
So you just talked about how you have a lot of different choice models down there.
I wasn't talking about my district, but I was talking about my region.
Okay? In your region, you have a lot of different choices down there. What's gonna happen to those choices if we go to the 27 districts? You have a lot of different models of choice, of school choice down there.
Yeah, but I'm asking, are you talking about representative?
Yes, if we go to those
Oh, I
27 different.
haven't even looked at that.
Well, I guess,
If we go to a bigger district model, what's going to happen to your system now? To the ability that they have now.
That's actually irrelevant to what I'm suggesting. I'm not even, like, I'm not talking about maps, I'm talking about opportunities for kids.
Me as well, there's an opportunity that they're utilizing down there of choice. What's going to happen to that
Some
opportunity?
are.
Yes, absolutely. What's going to happen to that opportunity?
I just would, this may be not necessarily, I would just put out that from a technical legal point of view, a school district's choice policy could be status quo. They don't have to open up choice. Conversely, under my proposal, they could open up choice or not. So that's just something to think about, if you ever get toward any of this is, do you put guardrails on choice within a district? Do we take that power away from school boards? You're up, Jana.
Actually, I think my question is more of like a down the road question that might not actually be that helpful right now.
Josh, you're up.
So Emily, I want to circle back to your concerns about under Chris's proposal, one of your concerns seems to be that if families may choose an opportunity further away that another family can't take advantage of. Is that,
It's not always further away.
Or
but
just
it is literally just simply the ability to take advantage of choice with voucher.
So Chris's proposal keeps everything how it is today. It actually adds in some slight constraints compared to what we currently have. So under your argument, we would be doing that right now, and I don't see that happening under the current choice tuitioning environment we have in the state.
So I'm talking about students, I'm talking about school districts that all, they're a K-12 district and they all go to the local school and the local high school. They don't currently have the opportunity to choose. They go to their designated school in their district, the schools in their district. Some of them have inter-district choice depending on what they are, but.
And that's what Chris is still proposing. He's
But
not
I-
proposing
no, he's-
The attendance.
the attendance zones. He's not expanding it.
he's-
He's keeping it exactly as it is now.
That's. Well, it's not, it's not what it is.
Yeah, I guess I have a follow-up question. Like, I mean, is that the intent? Because I think we're giving these new school boards, the ability to sort of draw their own attendance zone policies. Like, we're putting that decision in their hands. Like, is it what we have today? Is it less? Is it more?
That's why I said last week, this has the potential to actually not change the map at all. Then, if everyone decided they wanted to keep it. Delivering education the way they do today, they have the opportunity to do.
Right. I mean,
But this is all, this concept is all, that although there isn't a map proposed with this language, this is proposed with the intent that there is a map that has much larger districts and we start getting that efficiency.
So then we go to.
So that is the intent of this, is to be in conjunction with a map that does much of what the administration is looking for as far as efficiency scale.
But what you're saying is keep attendance, but within those larger districts, the current attendance patterns would be what remains. So Milton would still only,
So that
would not get the opportunity to get a choice, but the islands would still retain that opportunity. It's not expanding it to others within that district. It's keeping it where it currently exists.
Recognize how you see it. I just can apply it in my head, and I'm not going to name districts, but I can apply it in my head and say either we'll stay the same or we're going to expand choice. That's how this looks to me in my head.
Under Peters, they do the same thing.
Could, I would say could, it's a little, I would argue that it is a little sort of less likely because you don't have choice sitting there side by side with somebody who doesn't have choice.
Thank you.
All right. So sensing, we find ourselves where we continually return and find ourselves. I am going to perhaps look, okay, we're going to start thinking about what can be put on the table that can get enough votes to leave here that is moving us forward. I think, I'm sure, so we're all getting the same emails, right? And I'm probably getting the ones that are about Waterford, which I should just say on the record that maps are still very much loose and in flux, and that everybody's input about what works and what doesn't for their town will at some point in time be taken into account. But what we are hearing, I think, quite loudly out there is I have not received a lot of love for state mandated newer, larger districts, despite the fact however I may feel about this. I would say that we are hearing, and perhaps officially in the VSA's sort of policy step towards Act 73 goals. I think that I said there's a certain faction of people there saying, let's try to make it happen without doing that. And let's try to save money without doing that. And I'll be honest, Chris's, goals of newer, larger districts, my goals of newer, larger districts, the governor's goals of newer, larger districts. I can talk about all the good things about it, but it's not without their challenges, such as leveling up salaries, which is something that I'm always concerned about. Okay, so where's Peter taking us to here? We're on a long walk. We don't seem to be getting anywhere. Can what we are talking about be accomplished through a CISA system that makes one of the responsibilities of the CISA to bring people together to form newer, larger districts? That's kind of the concept I'm putting on the table. If we all seem to agree that CISAs are something that needs to be part of this. I think, mostly agree. I think we could all agree that we need newer, larger districts if they're brought together on a voluntary basis. I think that we could mostly agree that we need newer, larger districts. So what I'm saying is there a way we can perhaps kill two birds with one stone by A, having CISAs, and B, making the CISA one of the CISA's responsibility to bring people together to discuss newer, larger districts. This is what we saw suggested in the VSA steps. Short of that, I don't know what could possibly get through this group of people. And I keep saying to people, this group of people is a microcosm of the legislature writ large, which is a microcosm of the state writ large.
I ask a clarifying question about the CISAs and newer, larger districts within a CISA. So if a CISA is, say we have 5 CISAs, throwing that out there. Within one CISA, we have the ability, and it works out to maybe 7, 8 districts underneath it that we get. How is that different from supervisory union right now?
Okay, so great question. A CISA is not a governmental body. its job is, I would say, it's like, they're like consultants or service providers. I'd say in this case, the job of the CISA is to hire somebody or whoever the executive director is. Part of the responsibility of that CISA is to bring together the districts within that CISA to say, we all need to be talking together to form newer, larger districts where groups of you or all of you are brought together under one governance structure. But this does step back to sort of the Act 46 methodology. Now, one thing we could do is we could put in parameters, maybe not a map, but say your job is to bring people together in groups of 3,000 to 6,000 students or whatever numbers we wanted to use to make that happen. I think I would say 4,000 seems to be a number that, while on the high end of one group, it's at the low end of the other, and it's kind of an area where it seems to be a little bit of a sweet spot. So we could say, okay, one of the responsibilities of the CISA is to bring people together, bring districts together, and start having formal conversations about merging into groups that represent roughly 4,000 students. That's kind of one way to get there. And these would be districts. These would be to create districts, not to create supervisory units. The CISA is not a governing municipality. It's not, it has no power.
So really, we would be basically just kind of handing it over to the CISA instead of just doing that here and saying what we were trying to do of 4,000 student districts and implementing a CISA.
The answer to that is yes. It is. These would not be state imposed newer, larger districts. For better or for worse, I don't know anymore. But what I would say is, at least the cost of getting a CISA up and running quickly is probably not big when we think about the overall costs of consolidation in a state mandated newer, larger district methodology between leveling up and just all of the lawyering and all that goes into it. Beth?
Question in regards to the foundation formula. Because as I remember Act 73, the foundation formula does not go into effect unless there's a new district map.
Yep.
And the foundation formula is something I definitely want to see go forward. So by doing this CISA proposal in alternative to making a new map, does that mean the foundation formula won't go through? And do we need to, if we want that to happen, amend
So we are,
these to implement the foundation?
I would
Procedural.
I would say that in our conversation today, we are now reaching the spitballing stage.
Yes.
And so we could put in that,
Goes in-
this is not dissimilar to what the Senate is proposing. If you are unable to get there by this point in time, then this happens, whatever that happens to be, that it becomes state imposed for larger districts. The foundation formula, I think one of the concerns that I hear from many members of this committee is with the foundation formula is we got a lot of information we don't have yet. CISA can get started, as soon as we pass a bill and throw some money at it. I think Emily was next, then Josh.
So what you threw out there is asking the CISA, which is not a
Requiring
government
CISA, yeah.
require to facilitate a conversation with its members. Because the members are the ones who have the ability to, the members of the CISA are the ones who have the ability to make decisions around that. The CISA itself would be a facilitator.
Exactly, a consultant. And, we could even consider saying, while that's getting up and running, we have people employed who are even starting those conversations sooner. To me, I don't know that, I don't know that state mandated newer larger districts can get out of out of any part of the legislative process, as we get ourselves bound up over choice issues, designation issues, concern over governance being less local. You put all those things in together and we don't have votes to move anything anywhere. So what I'm trying to do is put together a concept we could all say, well, if nothing else, this sure gets us started. Josh is next.
Back to Beth's conversation about the foundation formula. So there, it's contingent on districts,
It is.
right? But we could amend that and make it go into effect in lieu of anything else coming out of here today, right? So to your point, we could, so just as a policy decision, as our legislative council would say, that we can make and like, you know, so if that is something that
You would be,
Wanna see.
you would be, you know, you always say you can't bind a future legislature to anything. It would be aspirational. I think from a lawmaking point of view, I know that there are folks who say, we just need to move to the foundation formula if we can't get agreement on anything else. I have some real issues with that. I think that would be dangerous.
I'm saying to her point, like, it doesn't have to be tied to that. You can tie it to anything you want or nothing if you so chose.
Correct.
So, okay.
Procedural.
Yes, I understand it. Yes, from a politics point of view, that might be.
Right.
Go ahead.
Just procedurally, I was wondering, another procedural idea as we spitball, as these CISAs, because again, deciding the boundaries of the CISAs could be problematic. Could these conversations for voluntary new larger districts happen between CISAs? That your merger would not have to be in CISA number one, because there could be a school district and there's this school district across in CISA number two really is a much better partner for us. So we want to get together with them.
So I think we
So if
could,
you're bound within those pretend 5 CISAs, that can cause some
I would say
conflict.
nothing in this, fine, we could, yeah, we could address that, I'm sure. And no one would want to prevent a common sense merger from happening just because we drew an arbitrary line.
Thank you.
Yes.
How do you want the process to look of suggesting what these proposed CISA lines are?
Well, I mean, I would say let's work with what we have, and one thing we have is a recommendation from the task force. It's boundaries that we already have for the VSA, areas.
I would propose the CTE area instead.
I guess the question is how many CISAs should we have? Do we have? I would say, I think the 5 is problematic just because when you get into that whole Chittenden,
Right.
Franklin, Addison area, that's probably
Sorry,
way too big.
amend what I was saying. I said propose the CTEs, but actually I would propose combining CTEs. So we went 3 CTE areas within a CISA, which could then be 2 to 3, which could then be 5 CTEs across, 5 CISAs throughout the state.
Yeah, we can do 5. I worry that the numbers may be too big in the Chittenden County area. We need to adjust there. Yeah, and I think we also, I think it'd be important to be cognizant of the fact that we have a CISA. That we would need to sort of
So
accommodate.
everything we do moving forward is going to be sort of dependent on this one CISA that already exists rather than asking for an adjustment there.
I guess the question would be, does it need, if we say, and again, I hope all of you realize that when I answer back, I'm not trying to argue with anybody, I'm just trying to continue the thought along. I think to Beth's point, there would be nothing that would prohibit any CISA to say, you know, we should get those folks over with us. Yeah, I mean, I'd say the lines they're not walls. They're guidelines. Josh.
So Leanne, are you, just to try and make sure I'm following your train of thought, you're saying that you, instead of maybe following the VSA's map or anything like that, you're saying use the CTEs to guide where the ceases
Yeah.
go. Okay, but
I'm saying use the CTEs to
It's you.
guide where it goes, except the one thing that I might adjust to what I've been thinking is fine, make this multiple
two ceases.
ceases.
Which one?
Because of,
Oh, right there,
yeah, because of the population. And like, you know, these could be changed, like, I looked at the, BOCES map as based on the, redistricting task force, and it's kind of a mess because of the BOCES that they already have, and like, this one actually goes up here and these go down here, and it's very confusing.
Interstate.
Ah.
Interstate school.
This was the redistrict, the BOCES regions by the redistricting task.
Hold it up again for us all.
Because
It is, I got it right off of their packet.
I thought it was just, with their five.
Literally a five on the redistricting and
Yeah,
everything in
1,
your,
2, 3.
Windsor and Wyndham
four,
County are
five.
essentially one. Oh, well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Now I'm looking at colors,
Oh,
not.
It's totally
Thank you.
unseeable for us.
Oh, okay, yeah, this is fine, except that there's like all of these that are like.
You gotta make those black lines.
Maybe the dark
You gotta-
outline,
you gotta
it's just the
really-
color coding.
Sorry.
I think she's good. I think it's just where the arrows are makes it look a little wonky, but everywhere else it
Well,
makes
and the
sense.
reason-
I can
This is
see
what I'm
it.
saying, this is why when I was thinking about it, I was thinking this makes more sense, even if it's undoing one of the OCC says that already exists a little
I
bit.
don't think it is.
It is actually.
So this, and I think combining these into the districts or supervisory unions or whatever, may be a path, but I also like the letting them decide. Because what I was noticing is I can do a lot up in the NEK, but once I get past there, I have no idea. Like, this needs to be done by locals.
So even that map doesn't reflect the actual BOCES that exists. The redistricting task force does not.
Oh, it does not. It doesn't look like it would require a whole lot of changes.
But like, I've talked to so many people and so many people think that like putting this centered around the CTEs is somehow makes sense.
Great. So, thank you.
Well, can I officially say this is what I usually do that? I guess I'm ready to say that.
I think yours is.
All right.
I guess I would say, would you please make sure that at some point in time, potentially, we would take a very close look at your map to make it somehow accessible to all of us.
Can I just walk it over to Matt?
Or email it to him.
You might even walk over to the.
Are they both the same?
No, one is the ones that came out of the redistrict task force. So I think you just want yours, right?
Oh, no, let's do both.
Mine is the one that's out and squiggly.
Another procedural question.
I'm gonna stop. You need to go.
To waive the means
Yep.
for
Thank you.
miscellaneous ed, and then I'll be back.
Thanks for coming.
Okay,
You keep messing it up.
thank you.
And I don't want to have,
And you don't feel you need to rush. We have,
It's snort on camera.
we keep throwing out the number 5 because that's what the task force.
yeah, and I personally don't agree with that. Yeah.
But procedurally, we do have in our current BOCES soon to be changed to CISA legislation, a limit of 7.
Correct.
Don't we have, so again, we would have to say 7's it or amend that current legislation so
I
that
will-
it's 7.
But it could be 7.
I would just to go down the weeds procedurally.
Yeah.
If we are building momentum here, we probably just pull that out of the miscellaneous and bill altogether.
But it's actually existing statute already that limits it to 7.
Right.
That's correct.
But we change it just once instead of changing it twice.
I'm not saying change it to miscellaneous ed bill. I'm saying it has to be changed in the original language
Absolutely.
at some point. And maybe we don't want to have 20 CISAs because I think you lose your efficiency, but maybe 7's,
So we came up with
if it's CTE, it's like 15.
I'd say, with-
No, because you're combining.
Or you could combine them and you could have
Yes.
5, you could have 10, or you could, yeah.
That had like.
You do 6 because you're gonna split up that in the
Yeah.
county,
But
right?
just keeping in mind that we have a statute that says no more than 7 and don't forget that we have that as we're looking at.
Chris,
Um,
listen, before you talk, because I'm going to anticipate what you're saying.
I don't think you are, but go ahead.
No, whatever we do here is going to be unsatisfactory to many people on this committee. We're not moving fast enough. This is still moving too fast. Whatever. I just want to acknowledge that for everybody. All right, good, thanks, go ahead. I thought you were gonna say this is way too slow and we need to have change quicker than this.
Yeah.
You're gonna get there.
Just with this model, right? So CSAs would be mandatory.
Yes.
And how would they be funded if the districts underneath them have not been formed and they're supposed to be doing that? And how does that all work?
All right, well, number one, this would not be the sole responsibility of a CISA. I think in the language that we've looked at previously, it's sort of like that CISA has to be operational to do 3 of 6 things. We might make this one be one of them. Then, it might be it's special ed, which is probably going to be the most popular one.
And finances, maybe.
Do it ed finance, transportation.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other ones were,
Administrative services.
administrative services, whatever it might be.
Resources, I think.
Yeah, whatever it might be. So I would say, this is part of the work. How would they be funded? I would say TBD, but we are going to need to apply millions of dollars anyway to ed transformation as currently foreseen within Act 73 before you even start getting to leveling up salaries. In other words, just the merging finance systems, hiring lawyers to figure out real estate, whatever any and all of that might be. So money will have to be invested regardless. This would be investing that money sooner with hopefully some payoff sooner as well.
I know we can't answer this question because we don't know what future districts might look like under that model. But wouldn't there be leveling up of salaries anyways,
Yep.
regardless?
Yep.
Right, so we're gonna incur costs regardless.
Yeah.
And I'll stop there.
Yes, and no, but I'm happy to have leveling up our salaries brought up all the time because it's always been a concern of mine. That's going to take a while before that happens because that all has to be negotiated. So that's like a years away kind of thing. In the meantime, hopefully the CISAs are already saving us money in the areas where we have seen CISAs save money.
What point is process to be kind of voting rights?
Well, this is another highly complex, potentially expensive challenge that we have in front of us. And the answer to that is depends. So under my map, for example, I tried to make districts that were small enough so that they could somehow, using the Act 46 methodology, decide among themselves how they wanted to do representation. I don't actually know if that would work in every district created in my map, because if you want to keep a board limited to 9 people and there are 22 towns in that district, not everybody's getting represented. Somebody's going to, So the voting board question is one that is TBD under any scenario we come up with, except really big districts, in which case absolutely required. And it is something that we sort of let drift away as an issue to take up, but it's actually a really big deal because it's going to take time and money and understanding and town clerks and GovOps and mapping software, all of that to actually turn into a reality.
So I know we haven't seen any language. Who's making these decisions within the CSAW? To decide these mergers and to help facilitate these mergers. And we've had big discussions about, we wouldn't ever want to put this onto a school board to do because nobody would want to do it. What's the difference between that and then CSAW?
All right. Great question. Again, the CISA's job is just to facilitate the conversation. The question is, between last year, this year, everything else, have we stirred enough awareness of the problem so that that facilitator is actually going to be able to facilitate conversations and move the work. I would call this an attempt at a non-mandatory imposition of newer, larger districts. If we want to put in language that aspires to, if you don't do it, this, we can. So the only people making the, and we would have to pull in, we have to think about like, all right, then what's the process? If everybody comes together, then do you automatically turn into Title 16 of Chapter 11, no, Title 11 of Chapter 16, which is the sort of form a study group, and then you do all the things that you do to, and then put it to a vote. Well, what happens if the vote goes south? Or do we come up with a different method of doing it that says you make a recommendation to the State Board of Education and the State Board of Education creates enough? Or do we say everybody comes together, ultimately a report comes back to the legislature charters everybody?
We're hovering on an Act 46 2.0.
Yes.
And I don't think Vermont deserves another Act 46.
Well, I think no matter what we do here, it's an Act 46 2.0 because that was newer, larger districts. I think many out there would argue that's the way to go because it's more voluntary.
But it didn't achieve what it was supposed to achieve.
Well, that we could spend a whole day debating. I would disagree with that significantly.
Defunding.
It probably didn't go as far as we had all hoped it would in terms of bringing people together.
Because it had to go mandatory.
But that happened prior to even the law passing the changes.
Right, and it ultimately had to be mandatory.
Right.
Yes, for some areas.
What did you mean a few minutes ago when you said if the vote goes south? Can you explain?
Well, so depending, this is again, as Beth would say, it's a policy decision. Depending on how we designed this. So we have now created CISAs. One of the CISA's required jobs is to facilitate discussion among districts to form newer, larger districts. Okay, at that point, some sort of process has to take place. We do have a process on the books, which is the process that's laid out in Title 11 of Chapter 16, which then says, if you would like to voluntarily form a district, you form a study committee, you come up with articles of agreement. You then put that to a vote of the electorate.
Vote goes south. That's the problem.
Just the expression, it goes down.
If it goes, again, like,
The people.
if
who
it
were
fails,
voting
so
said no.
okay, so I guess my follow-up question to that is, if it fails, that's the vote. The people have spoken, like, they
Right,
don't.
right. That would be, I would say, one of the big risks
That's
of
the
having
risk.
that part of this.
Right, I mean, it is a risk, but it is also democracy. So like, I was talking to another legislator a few weeks ago and he said, but the people in Calais and, sorry, what was the other town? Worcester, but they voted wrong. And I found that was such an odd statement because it's not a scientific thing that there was a right vote and a wrong vote. That is the vote. And like, that is important information.
Right. So in a world where if we were all funding our school districts individually, I would say that sure, if you want to spend as much money as you want and it only is raised on your taxpayers, great. That's not the system we operate under. So when they vote to keep those schools open, if that doesn't allow for savings, we're all paying for that.
But the redistricting task force found that closing the schools didn't necessarily equate to the savings. The savings were based on like the.
I don't know if that's true or false. The school district, the school district in this case, said it would.
It was consolidation of school districts, not closing of schools. We didn't discuss.
I mean, it's hard to imagine if you were to close Montpelier High School and Spalding and send everybody to U32, and U32 didn't really have to spend a whole lot more money to accommodate them. I don't see how you can argue that that doesn't save money.
Cut half the teachers.
Right.
So then those are the community members in our community that just lost jobs, like 100 of them.
Yes.
And where's the savings there when a community's just lost 100 jobs?
I mean, as I have said repeatedly, there is nothing fun about this.
No.
There's nothing uplifting or wonderful. We are adjusting to a state that has lost 40,000 students over 40 years. If you want to, you could take the number 40,000 and convert that into, if you took the average size of a school in Vermont, how many school buildings is that? But we certainly haven't laid off that many staff or closed that many schools. Everything you're saying is true and unfortunate and all of that, but when salaries and benefits are 80% of a budget and Vermonters are saying we want our property taxes to go down, saying we want all of our taxes to go down, we want Vermont to be more affordable. I don't know how you get there if you're not right sizing in all the ways one has to right size.
I guess my belief is that a lot of our schools at like the 300, 400 level will consolidate and are ready to do so. I can think of quite a few that I've talked to up in this corner of the state that are like, yeah, let's be, when we were talking about a pilot program, they were like, yeah, let's do the pilot program. Let's do the regional school. But there were a couple of others that are like, absolutely not. We want to fight for this. And so I really can only support a system in which there is some kind of a mechanism for a school that is showing growth and academic towards academic targets.
We are so far from talking about closing schools. We are just simply trying to figure out how to facilitate a discussion about larger governance structures.
I know that's what people say, but then when you're like, we're still 3 to 5 years out from closing the school, that doesn't feel like a long time for those schools that are going to.
We're 3 to 5 years out from even creating a newer, larger governance structure that would then have to figure out how to manage its own district. So I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying let's put that off a little bit.
Okay, but it is their survival. It's important in 10 years versus.
Right. I mean, you will never not hear me say in response to that, it is not a larger governance model that closes schools. It's declining enrollment, crumbling infrastructure, and inability to staff.
And right now, schools are closing on an emergency, chaotic, disproportionate way, not a thoughtful, planned out, statewide, regional wide even plan. And that's horrible for communities and families, what's happening already.
Can I just comment on that? Because, I'm sitting in an area where we're closing schools quite regularly, and I represent a town that just closed a school. And I, as much as I recognize that it is painful and difficult and challenging in a community, it wasn't chaotic. It wasn't well thought
In
out in that community. And I want to make sure people understand that there is deep commitment to the education of children in every region of the state. And sometimes really tough decisions get made, and they are done thoughtfully and carefully, and they still create pain and a sense of loss, but with the knowledge that it was the right thing to do. And it is a vote of the community. And so I just want to make sure that it's not always an emergency, but it is related to what you just said, Chair Conlon, declining enrollment and loss of opportunity. And when that happens, a community has to make the right decisions for themselves, for their students that they serve. And that's happening around the state right now. It's certainly not.
And it was not happening as well.
It absolutely, but.
Representative McCann,
I'd like to just add quickly that when Montpelier Roxbury decided to close the Roxbury School, all those teachers were absorbed in their system, so nobody lost their job. So closing a school doesn't mean everybody's out.
Absolutely.
There's gonna have to be some move around, especially if what Chair Conlon was saying, if Spalding and Montpelier came, that means our 7th and 8th grade needs to go someplace else.
Right.
If they go someplace else, that opens up a lot of classrooms that need to have classroom teachers in them. So there's
Correct.
Yeah.
there's some shifting.
right.
And there's also like people who are ready to retire.
Right.
You can offer early retirement. There's like lots of different ways to kind of get
You
the
know,
system.
we
to work.
seem to have I hear a kind of a dual narrative out there. We've got schools that have 30 to 50% provisional licenses.
Yeah.
We have got schools that are suffering significant attrition. So I think we will need to right-size the number of positions that are out there. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you what the impact is on the actual human beings. I'm saying there won't be impact. If we ever get to any of these points, we will, because if our state continues to be unaffordable, the regions are going to empty out anyway. We just went off on a little bit of a ramp in the road. I'm going to say, let's take 15 minutes, 10 minutes. So let's take 10 minutes, take a break, and we'll come back.